Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today on achieving 99.99% availability for PostgreSQL. I am Annie, your host, and I have with me Umair Shahid, who is the founder at Stromatics and the speaker for this session. So let's give folks a few minutes to tune in, and till then, you can hear us chit chat about random stuff.
Yet, it starting exactly on time may not be the best strategy. Maybe a minute or two is fine.
Yeah.
It takes some at times. What I've seen is that when people log in, that's when Zoom will ask you to update the app on your system, and that process will take a couple of minutes. And of course, because if you're not usually using Zoom and you're using it for after a bit of a gap, then that that consumes precious minutes.
I agree. So that's why we are like shaking it up a bit and just, chitty chatting till we cross the two part.
Yeah. By the way, this presentation today, Annie, it's very similar to what I gave at FOSTEM earlier this year, and it was a very interesting experience. It was a packed audience, and I think if I recall correctly, the room had a capacity of 446 people, and it was maxed out. The folks in charge had to keep some people out; they're not allowed inside. A very fun time giving that talk, and I hope that the audience finds it helpful and fun for this session as well. It's a little changed because it's a slightly different angle to a very similar problem.
Okay, and I hope the people who weren't allowed to come inside that room can find this recording as well.
Hopefully so. Hopefully so. Right.
Awesome. So I think a lot of people have tuned in. I guess we can
Okay.
proceed.
Okay.
So yeah, before we start the session, a few housekeeping items. This webinar, as always, is being recorded, and the recording will be shared afterwards. Feel free to use the Q&A feature or the webinar chat for your queries. We will answer the questions in the Q&A segment near the end. Over to you, Amar.
Thank you, Annie, and welcome everyone. The topic of today's conversation is achieving 99.99% availability for Postgres. For those of you who know how important those nines are. For those of you who don't, we will define availability. We will define what those nines mean, and also talk about why this is important. Anyways, this is part of the Stromatics webinar series. We try and hold 2 webinars each month, so keep tuned for topics of interest. Moving forward, a brief introduction of who I am. The name is Umair Shahid. Been in the Postgres space for more than 20 years, and I am the founder of Stromatics, and the claim to fame is critical production databases. I have authored white papers and benchmarks, and I tend to speak at webinars like this, but also at trade shows and conferences and podcasts. Over the course of these 20 years, I have been a part of several pure play Postgres organizations, but now I'm focused on Stromatics, providing professional services for Postgres. And our specialization is keeping Postgres databases fast, secure, and highly available. And that last part is what we're going to be focusing on for the purpose of this particular conversation, this particular webinar. On to the topic. So the first question becomes, what is high availability? The idea is to ensure that a database remains available and operational, even if there are hardware or software failures. That minimizes any downtime that your application might experience. And it is an extremely critical factor for mission critical applications, especially applications that require 24/7 operations. And availability, the measurement of availability is in nines. And I'm going to explain to you what that means. So 90% availability, 99% availability, 99.9, and so on and so forth. 90% means, you see 1 9 in that figure right here. There's only 1 9, which means that, it's 1 9 of availability. 99%, you see 2 9s in there, and that's 2 9s of availability. And the same logic follows up to 5 9s, where you see 5 9, 99.999%, and that translates into the amount of time in a given year that a database can go down or is allowed to go down, um, or the minimum or the maximum amount of time that is tolerable for this kind of availability. So with 1 9 of availability, 90% means that 10% of the time, up to 10% of the time, database can go down, which translates into 36.53 days. And if you notch it up by one more 9, 99%, this goes down by a factor of 10 and goes down to 3.65 days. And with every subsequent step that you take, you add 1 9, and this downtime goes down by a factor of 10, where you reach 5 9s of availability that allows for a maximum of 5.26 minutes of downtime per year. Now, this particular webinar covers only 4 9s, mostly because 4 9s is something that is achievable by Postgres with all open source components. You can potentially go up to 5 9s with Postgres, but you will need some specialized and proprietary software to get there. So up to 4 9s, that's what we're going to be talking about. Now, this is a question that we get fairly frequently. Our database resides in the cloud, and the cloud is always there, so we don't need to